Greetings, all you Circle lovers, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor, a Star Trek Deep Space Nine rewatch, Season 2. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
Sup?
Today we're going to recap, discuss, and rate Season 2, Episode 2, The Circle, alternate title, Cuckoo Kachoo. Nice.
Okay.
I worked hard on that. You might not realize it, but...
See, I was thinking more of like a The Circle Strikes Back, like a second movie in a trilogy, riff.
I was gonna call it Circle Gets the Square.
Oh, that's a good one too.
That was before I realized Circle is already the title of the episode.
That's true, yeah.
So I felt, it's not gonna work. A quick note on spoilers, in case our rewatch is your first watch. Expect full spoilers through this episode, obviously, and an appropriate minimum of minor spoilers for later in the series, but nothing too big, like in the final episode when it turns out it was Earth the whole time. I don't know if I made that joke already, but...
Deep Space Nine was Earth the whole time, or...?
Sure, why not?
Okay.
Just,
I mean, I guess technically it is, because all of it is filmed on Earth, but...
Ooh...
If that was only revealed in the last episode, like, sorry, we weren't actually in space the whole time, everyone.
So, didn't you know, Deep Space Nine was actually, remote on Earth? Anyway, this episode originally aired October 3rd, 1993, which was right in the middle of the so-called Black Hawk Down incident in Mogadishu, Somalia. So maybe your Star Trek was getting interrupted by news coverage. Who knows? I don't remember how well that was covered at the time when it was happening, but
it's funny. I was just thinking. I was looking at the wiki before we started recording, and it's very light on this episode. And one of the 3 bullet points under story and script is the second draft of this episode script was submitted on the 2nd of July, 1993. And I was sitting here like, is that significant because it was really close to when they filmed, or why is that important? But if it aired in October, then I have no idea why.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the normal turnaround schedule is.
Well, yeah, that's true.
It seems like, I guess that does seem like a reasonable amount of time for a TV show, like July, August, September, October. So it's 3 months. I don't know. It was written by Peter Allen Fields and directed by Corey Allen. Summary. In Sisko's office, Sisko complains to Minister Frank Langella, or Jaro Essa, or whatever his name is.
Yeah, I think I called him Jared last time, and that was wrong, but yeah.
Whatever. Jared from Subway.
Oh.
Jared from Bajor.
Yeah, Jared from Bajor.
Complains to him about having his first officer taken away. Jaro says, "What's the big deal? I thought you guys hated each other anyway." Sisko says, "No, we don't. Where'd you hear that?" Jaro says, "Oh, well, then you should be happy for her for getting a promotion."
No, I like that his response to where he heard that is just oh, it's just something that everybody knows. It's common knowledge.
Yeah, that's just the word on the street. Sisko says, "Oh, well, if she's getting a promotion, that's good, I guess. But shouldn't Lee be down in the Capitol helping with the violence and partisanship? The reason I risked 2 of my best officers to rescue him?" Jaro responds, "No, it's too dangerous because, the Circle. Which I totally have nothing to do with anyway. Gotta go, bye." Then he fondles Sisko's baseball and leaves.
Well, it's the reason he gives is oh yeah, one of the other ministers got beat up. And it's just okay, well, I mean...
Well, isn't that something that maybe having Lee down there could help stop?
I mean, worst case scenario, I guess Lee gets beat up some, is what you're saying, but you just give him some bodyguards, and then it's all good.
Guy was in a labor camp for 10 years. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, seriously. He'll be all right.
Meanwhile, in the writer's room, one of the writers is like, "Hey, have you seen this great new show, Friends?" The other writers are like, "No, because that's not coming out till next year." The first writer responds, "Oh, well, anyway, I have an idea for a scene." Kira is packing her suitcase when one by one all the Deep Space Nine crew members who had long-term plans to try to sleep with Kira come to make their last-minute Hail Mary attempt.
I think that's harsh on O'Brien, but I'll give you everyone else.
Well, okay, so first, Odo angrily berates Kira for not fighting harder, but she is resigned to the idea that the transfer is a punishment for rescuing Lee, the guy who is now replacing her, even though they keep trying to sell it as a promotion, but whatever. Next comes Dax under the pretense of returning some lotion. Kira's like, no, if you like the lotion, you should keep it. Well, says Dax, I thought, maybe we could spend your last night rubbing the lotion on each other, or...
It was like an awkward moment between the two of them, and just like, it was weird.
She's interrupted by Bashir, who just barges in and straight up is just like, hey, if you're leaving for good, just, hey, remember, it's your last chance to ride the B train.
That does seem like something Bashir would say.
I mean, that's clearly the subtext. Chief O'Brien shows up to service the replicator before Lee moves in, but seeing that Kira hasn't left yet and is apparently having some sort of farewell party, pretends that that's what he's there for, too.
No, he wants to say what an honor it was to serve with her, and he keeps being interrupted, and he keeps just trying to, like, make his speech over and over, and no one will let him.
Mm-hmm.
It's wacky O'Brien fun, where I'm just like, come on, are you going up to every like, superior officer that gets transferred? You're just like, hey, hold on, I got my speech that's all ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Even if... Remember, he tried to, like, avoid Picard, so... Maybe Kira just is special. Quark brings a bottle of Kira's favorite synthale and boldly explains his seduction strategy to the others while simultaneously attempting to execute it with Kira.
Yeah, that was a move. Like, so, that's a really gutsy move, especially considering how Kira has always treated him up to and including the previous episode.
Yep. Well, remember, she said that he was as handsome as ever, so...
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Maybe he's still kind of riding on that. And yes, that little tray of glasses that he grabs off Kira's prophet shrine was sitting there the whole time. I went back and checked. Raising some very creepy implications. So it's like, did he put... Because I don't think she keeps a tray of glasses on her shrine.
No, she drinks with the prophets. That's like when she drinks, obviously.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll go with that. The door rings one final time. This time, it's Vedic Barile. Fresh from his graduation from the Francis Dollarhide School of acting like a normal, non-creepy person. That's a very obscure reference. Anyway. Hey, I came here to bone, but who are all these people? He says. Or implies.
It was, he's like, hey, what, sorry, I'm interrupting something here.
These are my friends, says Kira, in a moment that would have way more emotional weight if we, the viewer, actually believed Kira was leaving permanently.
Oh, I thought you were going to say if we, the viewer, actually believed that she liked any of them.
That too.
I got to go back one step, though. I really love the interchange between Odo and Kira, where he's like, now I got to break in a new, like, first officer. Like, you did okay after I, like, got sanded off your rough edges. And then she's like, I thought you did okay after I got rid of your rough edges. It was a fun moment.
Yeah. Although wasn't Odo there for a long time before Kira? But
it's unclear exactly. We know Odo's been like security guy on the station since the Cardassians were there, but like, I don't know how long exactly that was.
Yeah. I think that was the best like exchange in the whole weird scene when it was just Odo and Kira, and and she says, "I'll miss you too, Odo."
Yeah,
that was nice.
The scene made sense when it was the two of them, and I'll even give you that like Quark's appearance feels very Quark.
Uh-huh.
The other three, like I said, Jadzia's whole thing is just like awkward. And maybe it is the fact that she didn't find Kira alone, and she like had things she wanted to say to Kira, but oh wait, now Odo's here, and now I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself. And then Bashir's he's still weird. Season 1 Bashir for the most part, like they haven't improved him really any.
I mean, it's weird that like Dax would have to use this returning the lotion as a pretense to say goodbye when she's usually presented as a much more kind of like wise and direct person.
Yeah.
Like, more in touch with her feelings or whatever.
Well, maybe not yet. Maybe not as much yet, because like that was one of the complaints that I had about last season was like they didn't do anything with Dax really.
Sure. Then Kira goes to Ops, presumably having left all the others back in her quarters by themselves.
She doesn't care now. She's moving out.
That's true. To say goodbye to Cisco. Sometime later, in a Bajoran monastery, Kira arranges rocks in a stream while Bareil stares at her non-creepily.
No, doesn't he like just walk up like as she's sitting there frustrated, and he's like, I'm sorry, I hate to tell you," and she's like, "I know, it's crooked."
Yeah.
So I don't think he was just like standing there the whole time staring at her. I think he showed up.
Well, anyway, he's like, "Hey, come with me. I want to show you something." He takes her to a room with an orb in it, which he says is the Orb of Prophecy. I have my doubts about what this orb really is.
What I noted in this scene was that like as they walk in, she's like, "Oh, I've never been to this part of the temple," and he says, "Oh, well, hopefully this will be the first of many times." And then she has a weird reaction to that. She's like, "Wait, hold on," as if she thinks that he's brought her here to hook up or something.
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh yeah, this is my room." And then she notices the orb. It's like, oh my gosh, okay.
That's true. I mean, she seems to be this whole monastery arc seems to be Kira trying to like avoid the implied advances of Bareil.
I think the monastery arc was them, the show attempting to avoid having to make too many new sets for Kira's vacation.
Although I've been noticing, I mean, they had Kira's quarters that they introduced last time, so I was like, oh hey, they're kind of trying to expand.
Yeah. They just do so much new stuff, and in this episode, like we go several new places and stuff. And
That's true.
I don't know that. I feel like a big problem in this episode is that they don't know what to do with Kira after they've kicked her out of her job. She's like, Jadzia's like, "Where are you going next?" And she's like, "I don't know. They've basically told me I have to take a vacation, and then I'll have a desk job somewhere." And so it's like, okay, so what do we do with Kira in the meantime? Right. And I guess they're laying some groundwork here for like this Kira Bareil thing with the orb experience, but
right,
it really feels kind of aimless to me. Is her entire like thing in this episode up until the end.
You're right. They don't want to just get rid of her for the episode, but then you don't want to just put her in like her new desk job or whatever she's gonna have, like the Ministry of whatever they said they were going to put her in. So
I think it was like foreign affair for foreign something or other,
which would make sense. That's a good.
I was like, she probably has more experience with the Federation than most Bajorans who work for her government. So, and that's probably the primary foreign power that you will be dealing with in this office. So
yeah,
it's really a good fit.
Yep. Anyway, what was I saying about the orb? Oh yeah, Bareil opens up the orb and Kira has a vision of a bunch of shouting ministers. Then sexy naked Bareil shows up. I don't know, just a weird vision. Is this the same orb from the pilot?
Okay, hold on, let's see. The Emissary DS9. I gotta see what orb he has the experience with in the...
Because the Cardassians have all the other orbs, don't they?
It is the Orb of Prophecy and Change.
Okay.
And so, I think you're right. I think that at this point, the Cardassians still have all the other orbs that we know of.
Okay, yeah, this is... I was a little confused on that point. Back on DS9, Odo is on the phone with a friend when Quark comes in with a tip that the Krasari, an apparently entire race of botanic DNA traders, are running guns to the Circle.
Yeah, it is very odd. Like, he's like, the Krasari are dealing the weapons, and Odo's like, what? They're like pacifists, and also they trade botanic DNA, and it's like, really, that's the only thing that any of them do? What a extremely specialized society.
It could be a situation like just where the Dutch are known for exporting tulips or whatever. As a reward for this incredibly valuable piece of intelligence, Quark is extorted by Odo into gathering more information.
Yep. The reward for work well done.
Yep. Good job. I'm sure he's going to come in with more tips next time he hears this information.
Well, he's a deputy now, so he has to. It's in the job description.
Otherwise, he'll get fired. And I'm sure he gets paid well for being a deputy. Meanwhile, back at the monastery, Belial creepily prods Kira about what the orb showed her. He's like, hey, what the orb show you? I don't want to say too much, but you were in my orb vision. I don't want to say what was going on, but, I think
despite the fact that the previous time when we saw Cisco have an orb vision, I'm pretty sure the guy was like, no, don't tell anyone about it. That's just for you. Belial does not subscribe to that same theory.
Right. Belial's clearly, he's a very radical Vedic. He wants to do away with ear rubbing. I mean, can this guy be trusted? I get the feeling this whole orb setup has ulterior motives. That's all I'm saying. This conversation is interrupted by the sounds of distant battle, and then by Vedic Wynn, who stands on a bridge and spews some typical Vedic Wynn nonsense.
Yeah, she just pops up, huh?
Which, I thought this was Belial's monastery.
Yeah, I was like, what is she doing here? And not only does she just pop up and, like, in Belial's place and start talking shit about him, but then when she finds out about Kira staying here, she, like, starts making comments about how long Kira is allowed to stay.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wait, why are you the boss here?
Like, aren't you the head of an obscure order of this religion? Like, why are you... They say it's Belial's monastery, I'm pretty sure. Like, why is she coming here bossing people around? But on the other hand, that is a very Vedic Wynn thing to do, so...
Yeah, she's quite bossy.
And I like she just sets up shop in the orb room later. So I think she probably comes here to, like, exploit the orb on a regular basis.
Quite possibly. Although she claims that, like, she never consults the orb or lets anyone else do it without the entire Vedic Council signing off on it.
I'm pretty sure she never even looks at the orb. She just sits in the orb room for a while and then makes up whatever she... Like, she looked at the orb one time and the prophets, like, tried to kill her or something.
They told her to screw off and leave us alone, and so she doesn't do it anymore.
Yes, like, what? You are... No, go away. You're not our kind of person. Cisco pays a visit to the Bajoran Military Command, which I think is another new set.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Like the Bajoran War Room, which has the awesome map of the capital and stuff.
At least a redressed large set. I think a lot of times when they need, like, a really big room, they redress Quarks, and so that might be what that is, but I don't know.
But it does have the big map, which looks like somebody put some effort into it. Somebody in the art department really labored on that. Cisco's noticed that the Bajoran army seems to be avoiding engaging the Circle forces, and wonders how devoted the military is to the provisional government. He brings up his concerns in a nice little exchange with the General Krim, in which he also passes along the info about the Krasari and states his desire to get Kira back.
I do like the way, like, he calls out Krim. He's like, hey, are you guys actually, supporting the provisional government? And the guy's like, well, yeah, duh. Uh-huh. And he's like, okay, but I just noticed that the troop movements, they keep moving specifically to not confront the Circle's forces. And the general's basically like, nah, you wouldn't understand. It's complicated. Let me change the subject real quick.
Yep. So what's this General Krim all about? Well, maybe we'll see. O'Brien heads up a lengthy inspection of a Krasari ship en route to Bajor, but comes up empty-handed. Finally, they decide to give up, and O'Brien places the container he was inspecting prominently in the foreground before disembarking. When the room is empty, the label on the container mysteriously shapeshifts into a rat. Oh, I forgot to mention earlier in the Odo Quark scene, Quark nicely drops a reminder that Odo has shapeshifting powers.
It's true. There's also an interesting note about the Odo Quark scene is that, like, he has this weird, like, pop-up screen that pops out of his desk, and I think that's the only time we ever see that.
I noticed that. I was like, was that always there? Is that always what that was? Interesting. We pause for a quick scene where Cisco stops over at the monastery to talk with Kira. He brings her up to speed and underscores his wish to have her back on Deep Space Nine. Immediately after Cisco leaves, like, when he's, like, on the other side of a plant, Kira is attacked and knocked out by 3 men in circle robes.
It really was. Like, they didn't wait at all. Like, Cisco turns around and they just grab her.
It's like they didn't wait for him to beam away or anything. They're just like, oh, he's behind a tree. Let's get her. I also like that the Circle has these distinctive robes.
That's like, what you want in your secret militia.
Where did they get these robes from? Like, I don't know.
Replicators. What do you mean?
Oh, true. It's like, okay, we all need to have these cool robes when we're doing our secret Circle stuff. And masks. The captain of the Crisari freighter meets surreptitiously with a Cardassian officer to receive a shipment of weapons. The Cardassian signs over the consignment of illegal arms with a thumbprint on a pad, which the captain leaves hanging on the wall. So it's really good that this illegal, off-the-books arms shipment has some paper documentation.
Yeah, make sure you sign the receipt for the illegal arms shipment.
It's like the guy goes back to Cardassia. It's like, hey, the Crisari called and said they never got the weapon. It's like, did you get a receipt? It's like, oh, dang it. The mysterious shape-shifting rat eyes the pad with interest. Presumably the rat steals the pad and gives it to Odo later. Kira awakens in the headquarters of the Circle, which is a little cave with the Circle logo spray-painted sloppily on the wall.
It's always spray-painted sloppily every time. Like, they need to make stencils or something.
The guy in charge of the logo design is not as into it as the guy in charge of the robes. Like, robes guy went all out. Like, logo guy's like, hey, let's just get some like cans of spray paint.
Well, and it is an odd logo in and of itself. Like, I don't feel like that much work was put into it. But of course, when you're calling yourself the Circle, like, your logo then has to have a circle.
Uh-huh.
And so in this case, it's like a circle and then like another circle and a squiggle.
Yeah, clearly they were like, well, our logo should be a circle. But then they're like, well, then, there's circles all over the place. So,
yeah, how will they know that it's the mean circle?
So let's put a little zigzag in the middle of it. Out steps, bum bum bum, Minister Jaro, the head of the Circle.
Who could have guessed?
All his, like, shifty acting in earlier scenes suddenly makes sense. Operating on the continued weird assumption that Kira hates the Federation, he gives a quick villain monologue explaining his motivations, which are pretty much exactly what you'd expect. Then asks Kira if she thinks the Federation will get involved. Kira refuses to answer and is dragged off to be tortured to extract her answer to this incredibly vague and speculative question.
Yeah, I mean, she could literally say anything, and apparently they wouldn't know any better. So she'd be like, they'll like, dress as ducks. Yeah. And it's like, okay.
I mean, yeah, they'll definitely send troops. You should just stop what you're doing. Back on Deep Space Nine, Quark comes through at this crucial moment and provides the location of the Circle headquarters. For this game-changing piece of information, he is probably rewarded later by being punched in the face.
I'm sure, yeah. It's just, no matter how much Quark does, they continue to treat him like crap every time. And I mean, he doesn't help himself by, like, being a jerk about it. Like, when he brings the information to Cisco later, he's like, we can discuss compensation at a different time.
He's had a rough go at it, because first he gets branded.
Yeah.
And then gets no sympathy. Then he picks up this incredibly, like, important tip about the Crisari, for which Odo threatens to throw him in jail. And then now he comes through and they're like, yeah, you think you're getting paid for that? Whatever. Also, apparently now Quark can just freely wander into ops with nobody batting an eye.
They do go like, not now, Quark, go away. And he's like, no, wait, I'm actually here for reasons.
But I mean, he's not like an officer. He's just the bartender. Like, he just strolls right into ops. Like, hey.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
I guess they're just used to him or something, or all his many, like, times he had to assume control of things, like in the Babel episode, has just earned him ops privileges or something.
He was allowed in ops for that, and then they forgot to, like, shut his access off.
Yep. assuming for some reason that Kira must be in Circle HQ and not just off meditating somewhere, Sisko, Lee Nallis, and Dr. Bashir lead a rescue mission.
Well, I mean, doesn't Burrell call and it's like, hey, we can't find her, we've looked everywhere or whatever?
Yeah, but he also says there was no sign of a struggle.
Yeah.
So it's very weird. And, like, even if the Circle did take her, why would you assume she's in that particular location? But I guess it's worth a look anyway. I don't know why Dr. Bashir, who has proven himself...
Kira's hurt.
Okay. I mean, he's proven himself time and time again to be the least combat effective person in Starfleet. And I like Lee Nallis goes and is only minimally usul.
He is like, she's like, no, I have to go. I owe her. And I was like, that's true. You do owe her a rescue from captivity. All right, yeah. I'm okay with it.
It's nice that he's like, I really should be in this rescue mission. Even if it's, it would have been cool if, like, he was the one who, like, found her but, whatever.
One of the few comments in the wiki for this episode talks about how the writer feels that Lee Nallis kind of got lost after the first episode of this 3-parter. Because it's like, it says originally he was supposed to be this regular guy, not a coward, but a regular guy who had fought some battles. And then by the time we get to the 3rd episode, he's supposed to stand up and be counted. But for various reasons, he never really changes. He was an okay guy at the beginning, and he's an okay guy at the end, and he doesn't really have an arc. He gets kind of lost.
Yeah, his whole arc was basically in the 1st episode.
Yep. Well, I mean, and it worked. He was good in the 1st episode.
Yeah.
In this one, he's just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. They gave me a title that's never existed with unclear goals, and I report directly to the prophets. So what the hell do I do with that?
It was like, you got to step up to be this motivational symbol to the Bajorans.
But they won't let him. They send him to Deep Space Nine.
They just, like, reassign him to Deep Space Nine. So there's, like, nothing he can do about that.
And I wonder if it's like he taking over Kira's, like, is he going to help make crew rosters and stuff like the Kira would do? Because Sisko's like, you report directly to the prophets, but sometimes I'll ask you to help me out.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, so does he not get all of her? Because she was a major and he is a navarch. So does he not get, like, the grunt work? Who's going to do all that now?
I definitely think Sisko envisions a much more symbolic role for Lee than for Kira. Even when Sisko leaves, he's like, okay, I'm leaving. Dax and O'Brien are in charge while I'm gone.
No, but he takes O'Brien because he's like, we're going to need your transporter skills.
Oh. Does he?
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to go back to that part.
It was Dax and somebody.
Let me go back. I got the episode up. Let me see if I can. Oh, no.
No, it was earlier when he was leaving. It was before they went on the rescue mission.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he brings O'Brien on the rescue mission.
It was when he went down to have that talk with the general.
Right, when he goes to talk to General and then to Kira. Yep, you're right.
Yeah. So they rescue Kira. Once they get her back, the information she provides about Minister Jaro or whatever becomes the final puzzle piece for Sisko to put together the complete plan of the Circle.
Okay, here's where I have to talk about the transporter. So, in the last episode, it is a specific plot point that the runabout can only beam 2 people up at a time. And then they go down to rescue Kira, and they're like, Orion, we'll need your, like, transporter magic.
Oh yeah, they beam up, like, 6 people all at once, don't they?
You watch them in one shot. There's, like, 4 or 5 people who all get beamed out at once. And I'm just like, I guess when O'Brien told her, oh, no, there's no way to make it beam up more than 2 people, she didn't ask him to do magic like Sisko did. So she didn't know the right words to make the transporter do more things.
Well, it's possible that O'Brien, having been on the previous rescue mission, where he could only use the transporter twice at a time, was like, man, this sucks, and, like, put some extra transporter power in the runabout for this mission.
That would have been, he somehow, like, amps up the transporter before they go on the mission. Honestly, I was like, I don't think that's how transporters have ever worked. Like, on Next Generation, if you just get a bunch of people in one place, then you can beam out everything in that space and not just, like, a certain number of people, because you beam up stuff that's not people all the time, so it's not limited by number of people.
Yeah, but I mean, you also have to beam things to the transporter pad, and the transporter pad in the runabout might be really small or something.
Yeah, unless he can do like a site to site.
So maybe O'Brien modified it to where you could like beam it to the more roomy area or something.
That's a good point.
I'm sure the writers put all this amount of thought into it. See, back in the orb room, Jaro and Wynn have a who is the more sneaky villain contest. They decide to call it a tie.
I think this is another one of those, like, okay, we've already built this new set. We're not building too many new sets. Just have her in that room that we already have.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just so obvious. Like, if you have Frank Langella and Denise Fletcher, or what's her name?
Louise Fletcher.
Louise Fletcher.
Yeah. You got to have them acting together.
Yeah, you got to put them in a scene together.
There's a quote from her in the Jared SO entry where she says, "I like that show very much, and I enjoyed working with Frank Langella. I got a lovely note from Frank saying how much he enjoyed working with me." And so I love this idea that after his like brief stint on a few Deep Space Nine episodes that he does just for his kids, he's not even credited for it. He sits down to write some like very nice notes to some of his co-stars from the 3 episodes. What a quality guy.
I mean, he might just be the kind of guy who does that all the time anyway, so.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, what a good guy who's like, I'm going to take the time to sit down and write some notes. I mean, apparently there's, as you mentioned last time, there's some stuff going on with him where maybe he's not a great dude, but professionally, that was a
right
stand-up move.
He didn't act inappropriately with Louise Fletcher, as far as we know. She had a nice time, unlike his co-star on The Fall of the House of Usher, who did not have a good time and got him fired.
Be he did act inappropriately with her, and she was just into it.
True. Sorry, I just had to look up his name to remind myself. It is Jaro Essa. Or...
Jaro. I think they say it Jaro.
Okay. So Jaro and Wynn decide to work together to become the evil rulers of Bajor.
Yeah, she's really obsessed over this whole becoming Kai thing, and I guess since assassinating Bareil didn't work out, she's like, I'll just go ahead and back a coup. And once again, we see her thing where it's like, I decide what I think is a good idea, and then I'll just claim that the prophets are, this is totally what the prophets want.
Well, at one point he straight up tells her, he's like, hey, can you make the prophets say that I should be the ruler of Bajor?
And then she's basically like, well, I mean, the prophets, maybe if I was Kai, then it's just, they dance around it some, and then they basically just have to come out with like, okay, yes, if I become in charge of Bajor, you will get to be Kai. And she's like, all right, then, that sounds good. And then there's also like a weird kind of romantic subtext, I feel like here.
Some like weird sexual energy.
Yeah.
And it's not clear if they're just old friends or just they have like both have villain radar and are able to detect each other's evilness.
Yeah.
Because, the stuff he asks for is like pretty bold if he was just talking to some random Vedic.
That's true, yeah. It's like he must already know that she's super shady.
Yeah. Anyway, we learn that Circle warships are closing in on Deep Space Nine, which is impossible to interpret as anything but a direct attack on the Federation by the Circle. So Sisko contacts Admiral Chakotay, and is told the Federation can't intervene because it's an internal Bajoran matter. For good measure, he drops the P word.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just like, I feel like maybe this Admiral should be bringing some other people in to talk about this, because we're talking about like a shift of power within maybe 2 quadrants by giving the Cardassians control of the wormhole. And he's just like, well, I don't know what we can do. I mean, Prime Directive, right? So just get out of there. And I was like, is that really a call that you want to make?
An organization that is directly attacking us at this very moment, Prime Directive, we can't do anything to stop them.
It is a Bajoran station, so it's like, if the legitimate government of Bajor is trying to take it, then, you can't argue with that. But this is not the legitimate government, at least not yet, so...
But even so, you can't, just go and grab the station from the Federation. There has to be some kind of, turnover. As Sisko points out, it's like, hey, okay, we got to get all Federation property and technology off the station pronto. So I don't think they're gonna like just wait around for that process to happen. But yes, his hands seemingly tied, Cisco orders a complete Federation evacuation of Deep Space Nine. To be continued.
Yep. He's like, okay, we gotta leave. So, I mean, how long would that take us, O'Brien? And O'Brien's like, oh, I mean, we could probably be out of here in an hour. And he's like, no. If you had to make it take as long as humanly possible, how long would it take? It's like, you have to take every bit of Federation technology. And he's like, I mean, that could be like weeks. It's like, oh man, I guess we're going to have to fight then, huh?
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about it like that, where he's like, he wants to have a battle with the Circle. But yeah, you're probably right. That is exactly what he's trying to do. Yeah, did the Admiral order him to leave Deep Space Nine, or just to not intervene?
No, yeah, he ordered them to abandon the station immediately.
Okay, so yeah.
I don't know if he said immediately, but
yeah, I didn't pick up on that. But I mean, just the whole thing is like, these guys are sending warships over here. I mean, what are they gonna do? Gonna be like, okay, we want the station back now, and then it's like, okay, well, give us some time to unload.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they said, okay, the whole conversation starts, I think, because like they send them an ultimatum or something, right? So hold on, let me go back to that part.
Did they?
He says, Commander, 2 assault vessels are headed this way from Bajor, and they've given all non-Bajorans 7 hours to evacuate.
Ah, okay. So yeah, even though they don't yet represent the official government of Bajor, like they haven't taken the capital as far as we know.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure they haven't yet taken the capital, but
so yeah, it's a very fluid situation.
I feel like it's an odd time to go after Deep Space Nine. Like, why not secure the planet first? Deep Space Nine is not going anywhere.
That's true. But I mean, Jarrow is clearly worried about Federation response, and if they like seize control on Bajor, then they just may move to take the wormhole right away. So
that really probably should have been the Federation move here. It's like, okay, Bajor can do whatever they want, but we're gonna go ahead and keep this wormhole. Like, you can have the station. We'll make our own or something, but yeah, we're gonna keep control of the wormhole.
It's like, well, we're just gonna send 10 Galaxy class ships to hang out by the wormhole.
I mean, maybe there's like some sort of treaties in place where it's like, this is specifically Bajoran space, but
yes, we're gonna go hang out on the other side of the wormhole. So yeah, who knows? Anyway, I didn't realize until I was writing my notes how kind of dense this episode is. Aside from like a few weird diversions, like the weird escalating friends goofy scene.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not much, like there's no Jake Sisko dating storyline this episode.
Nope.
We're like right in the action.
Yeah, it's true that this episode, I mean, pretty much keeps going with not a lot of side treks, unless you count like, Kira's sexy orb experience or whatever.
Yeah.
But I feel like overall this episode really suffers from like middle installment syndrome. True. Where it's like, it doesn't feel like anything new gets started or anything gets resolved, really. I mean, I guess Kira gets kidnapped and then they get her back, and maybe that's the thing that happens. But other than that, it's just like a bunch of things happen,
mm-hmm.
but nothing gets resolved, and it all started in the previous episode, so it's just like, this is some more until we wrap things up in the third one.
Yeah. I was definitely getting some Escape from the House of Mummies Part 2 vibes.
Yep, yeah.
In the first half. Well, once like the coups, that's another thing, is I feel like the coup really escalated quick. Like it went from them like burning their symbol on Quark's forehead to suddenly they have an army and they're marching on the Capitol.
And like spaceships capable of taking on Deep Space Nine. Like, where did they get those?
Yeah, who knows? Maybe they captured a airbase or something.
I was like, the Krasari aren't smuggling you like battleships. I don't think. So, okay.
That's true. And you're still hanging out in this like little cave. Like, where are you keeping those warships?
I mean, I guess maybe we don't know at this point whether that general guy, whose side he's actually on.
Yeah.
But if he's working with Jaro, then maybe these are actual military guys.
Oh yeah, it could be. I mean, at what point would the general just be like, okay, yeah, we surrender to the circle? I think that's how it would usually go in a play like that.
I suspect what would happen is that like they'll avoid contact until, you know, the circle takes over the Chamber of Ministers or whatever, and then it's like, oh yeah, now our army just serves the current government.
Yeah. But I liked it more once it started picking up with all the fast-moving political intrigue mixed with this implied military coup that we never really see.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff works towards the last half of the episode. I like, you know, Frank Langella and Louise Fletcher.
Sure.
Their whole, I mean, it's a weird, kind of like uncomfortable scene, but it works with these two bad guys. But I think you made a good point about like they apparently kidnapped Kira specifically to ask her this one question, which is incredibly vague. So once again, it feels like the show wasn't sure what to do with Kira. And so they're like, okay, well, we'll have her get kidnapped and rescued. That'll take up some time so we can get to the finale.
True. Yeah, they might have just needed to bite the bullet and just not have Kira this episode, or just have one scene with her behind a desk at her ministry job or whatever, and let everybody else play out the story or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't have had the urgency to discover the Circle's headquarters, which they do, and then, you know, they rescue Kira, and then it's like, okay, I guess we'll let the Circle go on with their revolution. We're leaving. Bye, guys. I mean, that's the moment where Sisko should have used as an excuse to take down the Circle. It's like, well, we had to go and rescue her, and if we just happened to like capture the entire leadership of the Circle in their secret base while it was happening, well, you know, what could we do?
That's true. They should have taken some prisoners.
Either that or kill them all. Just, you know, this, instead of waiting until you get back to Deep Space Nine, it's like, okay, now's the time we're going to like use technicalities to take a stand against the Circle. It's like, you had a perfect opportunity there. I guess he didn't know that before long an admiral was going to order him to abandon Deep Space Nine to the Circle, but...
Right. I mean, that is just a pretty baffling decision on the part of Starfleet, I have to say. It's like, you got to acknowledge there are Federation interests involved here.
And I still don't... The Prime Directive, we've heard multiple times, like, only applies to, like, pre-warp civilizations or something. And then just every once in a while, they're like, oh no, the Prime Directive applies here.
Maybe there's, like, a sub-clause of the Prime Directive that's like, don't meddle in other people's internal affairs if they're not bothering us or something.
It's like Prime Directive Volume 2.
Yeah. But I did note also that the fact that we had this orb vision does indicate they might actually have a plan for this season.
It's true.
So that's a good sign.
Yeah. We're building things for the future that hopefully will not be forgotten about instantly.
Yeah. Like a storyline that just completely drops all these symbolic predictions that we saw in this vision. Although I can do without seeing any naked Bareil and Kira time
That's gonna be the only thing remembered from this episode is they're like, yeah, they're in a relationship now. What about all that other stuff from the vision? It doesn't matter.
I'm going to be honest with you. That was the orb of sex.
It's like Bareil brings all the ladies to, it's like, oh, did you see me by any chance?
I seriously think that's what he does. Like, it's an orb that he knows gives you a vision, like a sexy vision of the last person you saw. So he's like, hey, check out this orb of prophecy. I mean, it's a prophecy, so you know what's going to happen. You're
the chosen one of the prophecy to have sex with me.
It's all about you. You're chosen.
Like I said, because of like the middleness of this episode, I feel like it's largely forgettable in this. And it's funny because last time I was like so full of praise for like they're actually doing like some continuing story. They've got like this 3-episode arc which never gets done. And then in this episode, I'm like, okay, maybe I get why they don't really do the 3-episode thing because it's hard to.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of a weird format for TV.
Yeah, it's hard to make a good story that takes exactly 3 episodes to execute, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the natural thing to do is to have an episode that builds up to an exciting cliffhanger and then just resolve it in the next episode.
Yeah.
So you want to jump into ratings?
Yeah, sure.
All right,
And I
you want to go?
Yeah, as down as I've been on some of the aspects of this episode, I still think overall it's good. I like the direction that it's taking the season. Just like last time, when it's like we're introducing all these internal Bajoran politics things. This furthers that. It furthers our understanding of like how things work between Bajor and the Federation, even if that's kind of ridiculous in this case. It does a lot of stuff that I like to see this show doing that I think works for the individuality of this show and making it like itself, making it Deep Space Nine in a meaningful way, and not just like season 1's episode of Monster of the Week sort of thing.
Yeah, that's another point I was thinking of also, is this definitely feels like a very different show now from like Next Generation or original Star Trek, where we're doing political stuff, we're doing attempted coups, and we have kind of these recurring characters. Yeah.
So I like it overall. I like what it's doing. I like the way the show is moving with this. So I don't like it as much as last week's episode though. So It's going to be a Lieutenant Commander for me.
Okay. I'm going to still give it a Commander, but I'm definitely putting it under last episode.
Okay, that's fair.
Because I was just thinking about, because what's the kind of stuff that I give Lieutenant Commander? Let me look at my little thing here.
Yeah, I'm on a new slate this season.
True, and that's totally fair. But it's like I gave the Nagus Lieutenant Commander. I gave Q-less Lieutenant Commander.
Oh yeah, no, this is way better than those.
Yeah, so you can start with a new slate. I'm gonna try for a little consistency. Although I agree, we're probably gonna have to like raise the bar this season, because I think it's pretty fair to say we can expect a quality increase, or at least a consistency increase over last season.
Yeah,
or hopefully. So
yeah, hopefully.
But for now, I'm gonna give this one a Commander. It may wind up being a low Commander when all's said and done, but
okay.
And just because also, some nice scenes. I liked the scene with Cisco and the General.
Yeah.
That was a cool character introduction for a guy we've never seen before. Immediately, kind of, we know where he and Cisco stand with relation to each other, or we think we do. And it's one of those scenes where there's like text and subtext.
Yeah, I like the impression that Cisco makes on him, where he's like, "Oh, I'll remember that about you."
Yeah.
Which it seems like this should be the setup for maybe some like future relationship of give and take between them. And I don't know that it is.
Yeah. And of course, just the dueling villains scene. First of all, Frank Langella giving his... it was such a typical scene where he was giving his monologue of... he's like, yes, I was the villain the whole time. And Kira's like, you're crazy, or whatever. So, oh, we'll see how crazy you think I am when we torture you. And then him and Vedic win, and they're just like both being so slimy. So good moments, a lot to keep me interested. If it carried along kind of in the first half, the way it did in the first half, I might have given it lower. But that stuff, I think, elevated it for me.
That's fair.
Yep. Anyway, you ready to wrap this up? Any other... I gotta quit asking for, like, final thoughts, because that's how we wind up talking about, like, Captain Picard, or Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen
kissing, yeah,
for like 20 minutes, and I have to just edit it out. And then stuff we talk about later makes no sense, so I have to edit that stuff out too. So if you're okay, I think we'll wrap this up.
Yeah.
So if you've made it this far, thank you for listening. Be sure to check out the description where I occasionally put links to interesting things. And links to Data's other podcast is in there if you like Brandon Sanderson. I also put the Mild Fuzz guys links in the description, even though they haven't had a new Star Trek episode in what feels like 2 months or something. Anyway, I'm Fletcher, about to say goodbye as Data.
See ya.
May you all outsmart the hunters for one more day, and if not, die with honor. But either way, please remember to drop by anytime you're feeling homesick. And what's the other thing we're supposed to say now?
I was going to ask you, what was the other thing that we came up with? Damn it.
Something about... I don't know. The end. Do. We'll remember next week.